It's important to remember that stress on its own is not a bad thing. Stress is really important. It's a vital part of life. But when stress becomes a way of life instead of a part of life, that's when we see more of the problems.
Hello, everyone. This is Kathy Caprino, and welcome to my podcast, Finding Brave. I've created this show for everyone who longs to create something bold and brave in their life, to rise up, speak up, and stand up for who they are, and to reach their highest and biggest visions. Each week, I'll be speaking with inspiring guests from all walks of business, leadership, entertainment, the creative arts, and the entrepreneurial world. And they'll be sharing their intimate stories of finding brave and offer their best strategies for building your most rewarding, joyful, and meaningful life, business, and career. Hey friends, Kathy here. I am thrilled to announce an event that is truly special coming up on June 13th, designed for folks who would like a stress-reducing, calm, and enlivening retreat experience in New York City's Central Park. For the first time, I'm teaming up with my dear friend and top stress management expert, Jordan Friedman, who I've had the honor of interviewing on my podcast twice now, to offer a live retreat and tour experience in the heart of New York City's iconic Central Park. We'll start with a 2.5-hour walking tour guided by Jordan, who's a fabulous licensed tour guide, of some of the most beautiful and relaxing spots in the park, followed by an energizing and supportive Q&A session, where Jordan and I will help you directly address and navigate some of the biggest stressors you're facing today. We cannot wait to spend this special and meaningful time with you, surrounded by nature, beauty, and the deep calm of the urban oasis of Central Park. Spots are limited, so check out the details and register today at thestresscoach.com/central-park-retreat. Jordan and I will love to offer you this special experience and be with you on June 13th. Hope to see you. Hello, everybody. Kathy Caprino here. Welcome to another episode of Finding Brave. I say it every time, but I mean it every time. I'm beyond excited and honored and joyful to have the guest we have today, Jordan Friedman, who is not only a dear friend, but such an inspiration, and you'll hear it as well. He's known as the stress coach, and I'm going to tell you all about him. But Jordan, you're so meditative and calming to be with, and you people will hear it as well. And we have lots to share with you, particularly around powerful stress management approaches designed for times like these. I don't think there's a topic that's more relevant than this right now. So Jordan, thank you for taking the time. I know you're going through a lot of things, awesome programs you're developing, big move, etc. Thank you for taking the time to be with me here today.
Oh, you're welcome, Kathy. Hi, everyone. And it helps me to talk about it too. I'm a part of this world, this stressful world, just like everyone else, right?
That's it. We kind of can't not be unless we're really living in isolation and not looking at the news or Instagram, etc., which hopefully we're not doing a lot of. All right, folks, let me tell you a few things. Let me tell you about Jordan. And also, I just want to touch on it here. As you probably heard in our introductory ad, Jordan and I are doing something we've never done before on June 13th that we hope will be not only joyful and restorative, but help you work through the biggest stressors you're going through. So we'll tell you about that in a minute, but let us launch into what Jordan has to tell us about managing our intense stress right now. Jordan Friedman is known as the stress coach for 30 years. He has created a chill factory of programs, courses, coaching, and tools to help people work, relate, sleep, and feel better. He's the former director of Columbia University's health education program, wow, author of the Stress Manager's Manual, love it, and the host of the great podcast, The Chill Factory. Jordan is also a New York City tour guide who leads fun and empowering tour experiences where work groups, meeting attendees, organization members, and others use sites like Central Park. What do you call Central Park, Jordan? The urban oasis?
Greatest urban oasis ever created.
Oh, I love Central Park so much. And you'll hear about more of it to foster stress reduction, team development, creativity, and problem solving. So there you go. That's only the tip of it, Jordan. But thank you for being here again. Now let us dive in here, can we?
Sure.
I think that your personal story of why you were drawn to working with stress and stress reduction, it's really an incredible, inspiring story. Could we start there? How you were drawn to this?
Sure. The interesting thing about my story is I didn't know it was a story in the beginning. It's
No,
often true, right? We don't
it's really true.
realize our stories until many chapters in. Uh,
That's right.
for sure, I knew that when I was 10 years old, a brain tumor was discovered in my head, and it
How old were you again?
10, 10. And it was one of the largest brain tumors ever discovered. So that was a big thing. But leading up to that, leading up to the discovery of the tumor, I was, I'm using air quotes, normal kid, did everything all other kids did. And I was a really good reader. I did well on tests. I was super creative, but mainly I loved to read.
Wow.
And I was in the fifth grade then, or fourth grade leading up to it, and I would go into the kindergarten classes and read them books. There was some kind of program that my school had. Anyway,
Wow.
brain tumor was discovered, probably had been growing since I was conceived. That's why it was so large. They thought it was cancer at first because of the size and the makeup of it. But then through some, you know, X-rays, I say X-ray, that sounds old-fashioned, but this was a long time ago. So the medical technology we have today, which is super, super advanced, wasn't quite as advanced then.
Wow.
So they had a lot of trouble determining what kind of tumor it was, but fortunately, they determined it was not cancer, and that they could remove it as best they could in two brain surgeries. So I had first brain surgery a week after the tumor was discovered, and that removed the mass of the tumor, which was attached to my brain, but also eating away at my skull on the inside. And then a month later, I had the second brain surgery to try to remove all of the tentacles of the tumor that went through my skull and around my sinuses and optic nerves and,
Mm,
uh,
gosh.
cheekbones and down the back of my neck. They couldn't remove all of it, so they created some room, hoping that it would disappear as I got older. And in fact, that is what happened, but it did not disappear until I was 26.
Mm.
So I had a
And
brain
it
tumor.
wasn't cancer, right?
It wasn't cancer. So I had this tumor until I was 26. And as a result, I
Wow.
had a friend who's an ophthalmologist tell me this recently. I have brain damage because the optic nerves are part of the brain, not a part of your eyes. So my optic nerves were damaged as a result. That's the big impact of the tumor. And I was nearly blind for a while in the beginning of this whole ordeal. My sight did get better over about 3 years, but pretty much stayed in place after 3 years. So I have lots of blind spots, more in my left eye, some in my right eye. The big thing that affected was my ability to read. That's why I started out by saying that I used to
Wow.
read to kids a lot, and then all of a sudden I couldn't read anymore. I couldn't read in the conventional way. I couldn't read the way you just read my intro, Kathy.
Wow,
I
Jordan.
can't sit and read a newspaper. So I had to sort of learn and be supported and use technology, which has progressed incredibly since then, to be able to read and do things I need to do. So anyway,
Wow.
fast forward, I'll finish my story in a second. Uh,
No, don't go
I
fast.
got to college. I was away from home for the first time, And I had a lot of physical symptoms, stomach stuff, indigestion. I won't go into the gory details, but all that stuff that a lot of us know. I had it on a regular basis, and I went to the doctor at the health service at the University of Maryland, where I went to school, and he said, I'll give you some medication for how you're feeling, but what I really think you need is a stress management class, and there's one on campus. This was not just a one-off stress management workshop. This was an academic class as part of the education department at Maryland, a rarity in the 80s. And I thought the doctor was, I didn't like his advice at all. I was 18 and
Yeah, you're like, what
thought
is
I was
this nonsense?
right. I'm not stressed. I have a visual impairment, but I went to that
Hmm.
class. I followed his advice. I went to the class, and that first day, I remember like it was yesterday, that the professors started talking about stress, and we even did a stress reduction exercise. And it was like the door was open to me to a place where stress didn't have to be a 24/7 reality. I think that even though
Oh,
I resisted the doctor, the doctor's advice because I didn't think of myself as stressed, I was super, super stressed because for 8 years, and then in college when I was there to fend for myself, I just had to do everything differently. Things took me 10 times as long as everyone else. My
Jordan.
tests had to be read to me. I was embarrassed about the whole thing. I would always try to pretend I had normal vision, and that creates a whole other set of stressors and pressures. So that really added up to me getting lots of physical effects at a pretty, young age, 18. We see that a lot more now. And then I dipped my toe into the world of stress reduction, and I loved it because it helped me feel better, but it also like opened this door to my career, even though I didn't know it at the time. But I loved the class. I took more classes. My professors were incredible. And then I just kept at it and got to develop my own work after Maryland at NYU, at Columbia. And
Oh,
here I
Jordan.
am all of these years later. Um,
What a
really
story.
really getting to do what thrills me, which is to help others reduce their stress and maybe open the door a little bit for others, like the door was opened for me. And it all, helps me too, because as I said before, I'm still stressed. I get stressed like everyone else. So
What a
all
story,
good.
Jordan. I have to punctuate a few things and get your thoughts. Um, you may not agree, and that's so perfectly fine. I don't mean to push ideas, but I it really sounds like if we believe in this kind of thing, that maybe we came here for a reason or we signed up for some of our challenges, it's unbelievable that you went through all this. You didn't know what stress was. You didn't realize, it sounds like, till you took this course that you were living in constant stress. And the irony of, didn't you say that it was one of the only stress reduction? Was it a master's program?
No, it was undergrad. There was a master's component, yes, but it was
I
both
mean,
offered to undergrads and
it's
grads.
incredible.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really one of the only in the university system in the US, right?
At that time.
I mean,
So
what the
now
heck?
if you think back to the 80s, right, we didn't talk about mental health issues.
Stress. I mean, we didn't even know what it means, what it feels like, what it looks like, how it presents.
Yeah. So I
I
just
mean,
was
it's
lucky.
quite remarkable, isn't it? And there's one other piece of it that I want to make sure people hear. Did you not tell me in the past, tell me if I'm wrong, you were doing your homework and suddenly you couldn't see it well or you weren't getting it and your mother was looking over your shoulder and tell us what she said?
Wow, you have a good memory.
I'll never forget it because I'm like,
That's
that's a mother who knows
yeah.
their child and isn't afraid to get help, but let me not ruin it. What did she
Yeah,
do?
no, that's exactly how it was discovered. There were no symptoms at the time that I or anyone else was aware of. I say at the time because in retrospect there were some mood changes. some breathing, heavy breathing kinds of things, but just didn't, think of them as, oh, he's probably has a brain tumor. Uh, but I was sitting at the kitchen table the first day back from school after Christmas break, working, writing something, an essay or something like that. And my mother said, why are you writing off the lines? You're not writing in between the lines of the loose leaf paper. Do they even have loose leaf paper anymore?
I think I
Hey,
have.
everyone, it's paper that has lines on it so you can write in a legible way. And she said, why are you doing that? And I said, it was a little hard to see in school today. And my mother, uh, really, she leapt into action. She got the eye doctor on the phone. I was in the eye doctor's office the next morning, and he put the occluder over my right eye, and I couldn't see anything out of my left eye.
Sure.
So it was
I
less
mean,
than
all of
24
it. I'm
hours.
turning on my light here because I'm going very dark here in my room. Um, how's that? Is that better?
Great.
Um, I just I want to hug up your mother for that because, you know, today so many parents are so stressed and so overstretched that they might not, and this is not uh demeaning, diminishing, judging parents. I'm a parent of a 27 and a 30-year-old, and I was racing around spread too thin as a vice president, etc. But the fact that she was in the fabric of your life enough to see that, comment on that, and then act on it, I just find that remarkably wonderful.
Yeah, another thing that was very fortunate with
You are
this whole
blessed, my
thing.
friend. Blessed.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
What a story. So let's start with times like these. And that statement, a million people will have a different interpretation of what that means. But so let me just say, I think in times here in the US and other countries of great change and rapid change, and change that perhaps, I'm not getting political here, that we never saw coming, and that directly impact our daily lives, from the money we feel we can save and spend to our jobs to layoffs, all of that. It's high anxiety times for many people. I know because I have a lot of clients whose world has been upended in their careers. Mine has been impacted. Um, Tell us what happens with stress in times like these. What particular, I didn't prep you on these specific questions, folks, but what in particular ratchets up our anxiety in ever-changing, evolving times? Can you explain it to us?
Yeah, so you said it really with the word change. So very baseline here. Uh, Change is a threat or a demand. Uh, it could turn out to be something terrible. It could turn out to be something good, but it is something different that we as human beings need to react to, figure out whether it's good or bad, because that helps us protect ourselves or do what we need to protect ourselves to be safe. That is essentially the fight or flight response in action. And we don't have control over that in a core sense. So I'll give a very, sort of understandable example that we've all experienced, or certainly we in New York City here have experienced, and that is you're waiting to cross the street. The light, the little man in the box says go, and you start crossing the street. And you get in the middle of the street and you see a car coming at you. And what happens? You automatically jump back away from the car back onto the curb. You don't stand there and say, now, should I stand here? Let's just see what happens. Maybe it'll
This
be
should be
okay.
interesting. Yeah.
No, you don't. You immediately do it. Your
Right.
heart pumps into action, your muscles pump into action, blood starts flowing to enable you to almost automatically
Hmm.
jump back on the curb. So
Hmm.
that car coming at you is a change. It's a threat. It's a demand. So when you talk about our times, yes, we've had a big political change. There have been changes in financial markets. There have been changes to people's lives. There have been changes to jobs. And all of those things can put demands on people, can put stress on people. It doesn't even necessarily have to happen to you. You
Right.
could have a family member or a friend who is affected more directly than you are, but you get concerned about them, you get worried about them. So all of this, um, especially when it's unpredictable and unreliable. So you're not sure what's going to happen from day to day, which could be the case with a lot of what goes on in our lives, regardless of governments or financial situations. That all keeps us in fight or flight
Mm.
stress mode more of the time. And then when you add in, and we can talk about this because I do think it's important, when you add in things like watching the news or reading the newspaper or looking at social media all the time, where you're getting
Mm.
more and more and more stuff about current events, for example, that you already know,
Mm.
but it's said in a different way. So it sparks your interest because you need to know whether to fight or flee it. You need to know how to react to it. So that's all to say it keeps us in a heightened state of stress for longer periods of time, and that causes lots of other things like the stuff that I experienced when I was a kid, difficulty sleeping, of course, moodiness, relationship communication troubles. That stress manifests itself in lots of different ways. And I'll just say too, Kathy,
Mhm.
that uh, it's important to remember that stress on its own is not a bad thing. Stress is really important. It's a vital part of life. It saves us from getting hit by cars. It helps us focus on dealing with things, on solving problems. But when stress becomes a way of life
Mm.
instead of a part of life, when it's constantly with us, that's when we see more of the problems.
Oh, wow. There's so much to talk about. A few things I want to say. I learned actually with a guest on the podcast, Andre Solo, who's the co-founder of sensitiverefuge.com. We'll link to it. And that podcast blew me away because he talks about HSPs, and it's not a made-up thing, highly sensitive people. It's scientifically researched, and when he talked about, and you can listen to it, the traits, I said, "Oh my goodness, I am one of those." Part of it is HSPs take in information from the environment in deeper ways than some other people do. So that can be how you feel, it can be aesthetic, it can be taste, it can be like I used to always say, how come I can walk into a room, let's say I'm giving a talk, and I can almost feel what everybody feels. Oh, she's jealous, or he's checked out, or oh wow, he's so stressed. I just thought, okay, maybe everybody can do that. No, I think there's reasons how I developed that way, but it's also traits of HSP. But the point is, one of my friends says, yeah, Kathy has big feels. When you're like that, you're going to take in every bit of news, everything you see on Instagram, everything you're reading everywhere in a deeper way. And in many HSPs, their boundaries aren't what they need to be. So I'd ask everybody, check out that information. If you're an HSP, it's probably what's going on around you impacting you more than maybe other people. Does this make sense, Jordan?
It makes sense. And if we can just stay on the social media part of it, in addition to what you're saying, those communications are designed to
Keep you.
spark your fight or flight response, right? Whether it's Fox or MSNBC or CNN or something else, they need to grab your attention because
They
they
want to
need
keep your
ratings.
attention.
They need ratings. They need money that ad money that comes from ratings. So I think we all know that they grab you with headlines that maybe you're going to say, "Oh, wow, what's that? I want to know more about that." And then it ends up being the same thing you've heard for the last 3 days. It's designed to make you feel threatened because that's what we go to. So if you are a particularly sensitive person, yeah, you're gonna, your stress, your fight or flight response is going to be going non-stop. But even if you're not highly sensitive, it's easy to get sucked in.
So, question here. I spoke to Michelle Geelan years ago, who is a positive psychologist now, but she was a journalist. And she's married to Sean Achor, who is a happiness expert. And she said she noticed early on, or she got involved with or heard a research study that said just 5 minutes of the news, not bad news, of the news, which, as we who have been in the media know, what bleeds reads. That is what people look at all the TV shows. It's about emergency rooms in hospitals, it's police, criminal. Look what we watch. But just 5 minutes of news can affect your entire mood. I think it's for like 24 hours, something like that. I'll try to find that research. But here's my question. I'm guessing that this fight or flight is from the amygdala part of the brain, the reptilian brain that has been with us for millions of years, right? And then we have the cerebral cortex, which can mediate that. But is this something we're just stuck with? I mean, no, you're going to give us a lot of strategies, but are we dealing with a brain that just hasn't evolved beyond it? And we have to accept that we're going to be drawn to it, we're going to be addicted to it. I mean, is it true that good news we're not addicted to? We don't want it because what's going on there?
Oh,
Neurobiologically, if you can tell us.
yeah, I mean, I think I go back to the survival mechanism of it. It's a good thing it's there, right? So it's
Okay.
designed to preserve our lives so that we can get away from a real predator or a real threat.
Okay.
Um,
We're still back in the cave era where the tiger can emerge and we could be dead, and so
yeah.
could our.
So I think it's much healthier in our times and more constructive to say, okay, well, what can we do about it? We know this is how the brain works, and not to like stay on the social media thing or the media thing, but it is a big source of stress for people. So, okay, we know that the media gets us riled up and gets our stress response going. So don't consume as much of it.
And I'm there with you. I watch about 15 minutes of news on one channel. I do not look at my news app any longer. I don't. It's repeating. Well, actually, it's junk I don't even want to see. But I love that technique. Now, people were telling you a lot about kind of what goes into our responses. Jordan, what can we do? Give us four strategies. That's one huge one. And we've talked before. I think a lot of people that teach this stuff kind of get it wrong a little bit. What are we getting, or those of us receiving the teaching are getting wrong? What are we getting wrong about what we should do in terms of the best stress management reduction techniques? What are we not understanding? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, yeah. I think that sort of two roads as I see it in stress reduction and what we're talking about here. Two roads you can take, and you
Mm,
can also ride down both of them at the same time. So one is things like doing breathing techniques, meditating, exercising, eating well, having a social network. All of those things are great. We've heard about all of those things.
yeah.
Fantastic. Uh, then there is dealing with life situations that are causing you to feel stressed and anxious a lot or all the time. So, yes, meditating can help you feel calmer, can take the edge off of that stress and anxiety. But if that stress and anxiety continues to flow into your life and into your existence, and maybe it's going to increase at some time.
Mm.
You might get to a situation where the meditation isn't enough, or the deep breathing isn't enough, or all of a sudden you can't sleep well anymore, which
I've
was
had
a
all of this
big, right, big,
recently.
right, balancer for you. So I think something we get wrong, as you said, to
Yeah.
use that language, is
Mm.
that we're putting band-aids on
Mm.
things that need more attention than a band-aid. So and I think we're really, a lot of us are really smart. We sort of know what's going on in a lot of cases, that a relationship is something that is really stressful to you. You make it work, but there are things that need to be addressed, or maybe you're just unhappy in it, and
Mm.
that's fueling a lot of your stress. Financial issues, which a lot of people increasingly are dealing with. Your job, Kathy, you know this better than most. If you're in a job that requires a lot of you, and at the same time it is sucking the life and spirit and soul out of you, um, breathing deeply, nice, but
You're so
probably,
right.
right, probably you're going to have to do a lot of deep breathing, and all of it's not
You
going to
can't
work.
walk around deep breathing every minute of
Yeah.
the
So,
day.
so, so my point is that it's important to, if you have them, to address the big stressors that most of us know are there. And it's really hard. It's really hard. And it's not to say, I really don't want to say, oh, don't do any of the other stuff. Don't do road one, breathing meditation, having friends, talking to people about it. Those are the roots that hold the tree in place when the storms blow like crazy, right? The tree bends, but then it bends back eventually when the storm is over. But we also have to deal with the storms,
Oh, what
because
a
over
great.
time, the roots are just going to be able to hold back so much of the wind and so much of the storm. So I do think it's parallel roads, and also it's, effective stress reduction is usually a long-term activity, a long-term pursuit. So I think a lot of us, and especially today more and more, are expecting quick fixes to everything. Things are edited quickly. Social media is
Yeah.
quick. The scrolling,
Right.
people
Filter
are,
takes away, how old we look. Everything is.
yeah, we're being trained to expect things to happen quickly. And I think a lot of the things we've been talking about, and a lot of the stress reduction, it's takes place and needs to take place over time. And that's also true because things come along, right? You don't know what's going to happen a year from now, or 10 years from now, or even 10 minutes from now. So, uh, yeah, it's a lifelong activity.
So let's help people by giving a few strategies if there's truly a situation that, it's deep breathing isn't going to address it. I want to throw something out and see what you think. As you know, because you're a dear friend, just quickly, my world in helping professional women and having diversity, equity, inclusion as part of the work that I support, that all changed in a big way. And I remember I can pinpoint a day and an hour when I went into panic mode, panic mode. I won't go into the story here, but I can remember the phone call I got that put me into a trauma response. You following me? But
Hmm.
so that trauma response of I'm scared about my work, I'm scared about, the volume of work, revenue, et cetera, lasted, I would say, a good straight month. And there was all of those symptoms you're talking about. I'd never had a problem sleeping. I was waking up at 4 a.m, heart beating. I'm like, what is this? It's anxiety, Kathy. But, it was absolutely foreign to me. I will tell you that almost coincidentally, I also listened to kind of other spiritual voices and all sorts of wonderful things. And what I recognized in doing a lot of internal work is it's not the outside situation that was creating all that stress. It was my interpretation of the disastrous outcome It was my internalization of what this was going to mean for me. Are you following?
For sure.
And it helped by reading all sorts of sources I read. And I really believe this, our energy and our projections and our mindset are going to, in very direct ways, predict and deliver what we're most afraid of. And I went through a shift, Jordan, and honest to God, within sometimes 15 minutes, but certainly in a day, the external world shifted, but only after my internal world shifted. Do you have stuff to say about that? Is this
Oh,
helpful?
I do, and I'm glad you brought it up because I do an exercise more with live in-person audiences called the Mod Squad, and Mod stands for modification or changing the way you think or act in the face of a certain stressor. So let's just take the
Tell us
think
more.
part because that's what you brought up. Um, and the reason that I use this exercise, and really it is the most effective stress reducer we can possibly use. Sleep is pretty good, getting enough sleep, but let's just focus on changing the way we think about things, as you said. So, what the exercise does is it has somebody identify something that's like really stressing them out, like you said, and then the people in the room, their squad. Comes up with different ways they might think about this situation, different perspectives to reduce the stress that it's causing. And what this does is it does provide the perspective, because when you were in that situation, that trauma situation, when you got that call, I can imagine that you could not think of very many ways out of this, like what
No,
was going to make this
it was
better, right? You were just like,
disastrous.
only bad, bad, bad,
Only
bad,
bad.
bad,
That
bad,
I
bad,
would
bad.
never have signed up for this.
Right.
This is never what I wanted.
Right.
Right.
So that's common. That makes sense. It's overwhelming. It's sort of short-circuiting. But if you have other people in your life who can who are not in a trauma state, and they, have some knowledge of you, you talk about where your stressor is, and can come up with some alternative ways you might think about this situation. Yes, we can do it on our own, but really it's often helpful if we have other people involved in
Yeah.
helping us. You can get those mind shifting,
Mm.
stress shifting, life shifting ahas. And I swear, whenever I do this exercise, I did it recently, it happened again, without fail, the person who is stressed out says, "Oh, I never thought of that." Or I didn't think of it in that way. Yeah, I'm gonna use that, or I'm gonna do that if it's some kind of behavior change that somebody suggests. So yes, um, we have great control over our fight or flight responses. Maybe not initially when we're first slammed with the stressor,
Mm.
but pretty soon after, the way we think about things, what we do, can help us get back on our feet and move in a clearer, more confident, less stressed way. So yeah,
I so
changing the
love
way we
this.
think and act.
Can I ask you, and again, I didn't prep Jordan for this, so and it's maybe a little left field, but I understand from kind of a spiritual perspective why things shifted to the positive. I mean, I get that. And everything changed from what came to me, which in theory we can say we don't control. But I do believe, I believe every word has energy, literal, and everything is energy in our universe. So if you're thinking differently, feeling differently, what is going to come to you is different. But this shift was so dramatic, like from everything feeling like it evaporated to all of a sudden I'm hearing from a lot of great opportunities. And is there a reason that science explains that rather than spirituality? In other words, when a person has that mod squad, wow, wait a minute. I was thinking of this as just pure black, dark. This is horrible. You're showing me that there's different outcomes. What do you see as a researcher and an understander of what's really going on? Why does it change the person's experience? What goes on? Meaning they start behaving differently that brings new things to them. What happens? Am I making myself clear here?
No, I think I'm clear about your question. I think it's that it could be a combination of things. It could be it provides hope, right? Something that someone says that you haven't thought of because maybe you're short-circuiting and you don't have the answer, and it gives you a lifeline
Yeah.
to a way out.
And
Uh,
that reduces the stress and maybe allows you to be more resilient and brainstorm in a way being shut down doesn't. Could that be
yeah,
one?
because it really does go back to what I talked about in the beginning, the physiology of fight or flight, that we're
Mm,
automatically in that mode of figuring out how are we going to save ourselves. And then when we realize, let's say, through a suggestion that someone makes or something that just comes to you on your own, oh, I can talk to John. He'll be able to help me with this, or he'll have the key to the safe or whatever it is.
mm,
Um, it gets us out of the, you know, total
mm.
or near total need to save ourselves, right? It's an option, it's a way out, it's a potential solution. So it gives us space to not run as fast, to not fight as hard against whatever we're doing, whatever we're dealing with, because there's potentially an alternative. I also think
Wow.
that sometimes the answers or the options, the modifications are in there, are in our brains. But because we're stressed and perhaps traumatized by an event, it's hard to get to them,
Excavate
right?
it.
Because our brains are dealing with how to get away and how to fight. So when we can come down from that a little bit, whether it's because somebody's there to help us, someone gives us a suggestion, or we breathe deeply, or we exercise, it frees up space. The solutions can bubble up to the surface, if you will.
You
Which is
know, it
why
just,
yeah, it's not only about changing your life situations to stop the fire hydrant of stress. It's also doing things to, again, keep your roots solid, breathing, sleeping, exercise, all of that.
you know what you just helped me realize? I've never ever heard anyone speak about it exactly this way. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm a former therapist, for goodness sake. But the one story I've told more than anything else is when I got laid off after 9/11, 2 months after moving to a huge house that I was in great part financially responsible for. I was sitting in my therapist office. You've heard this story a million times, but it really relates perfectly at crying. And he said, I know from where you sit, this looks like the worst crisis you've ever faced. But from where I sit, it's the first moment you can choose who you want to be in the world. Not what. Do I want to be a marketing VP? Who? And I think this is what often happens when we're in fight or flight. My mind went blank, literally. It happens. It's almost like there's a black. But I went, I don't know, but I want to be you. I knew that. And he goes, what does that mean to you? And I said, I want to help people, not hurt people and be hurt. That revelation changed my entire life sitting in his chair, in his, oh, there's my phone, in his, oh, sorry, in his office. I think what he did was he gave me hope.
Mm.
I never thought of it that way. To
Yeah.
me, it before that moment, it was hopeless and scary and hideous and frightening, and I was bloodying myself against it.
Yeah, it could be hope. Some might think of it as it's the escape route, escape from the car coming at you route, or out of the burning building. It's a window you can climb out.
Yeah.
So it's because when we're in fight or flight mode, um, a lot of stuff needs to fall away to the side, all of the other stuff, because it's just about surviving. So the going black or not being able to figure out how to get out of the situation. You know, when you realize your house is on fire, your first thought is not, oh, how does this shirt go with my pants?
It's the
Because
opposite.
that's not
It's how do I
important.
save myself and my family? And
Right. So it can take, and that's why, I think we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves when we go through a stressful situation, or if we're going through one right now. Um, that why aren't we getting better? Or why aren't we figuring out the solutions? It can take time.
just listening to you fills me with hope, calm, peace. We're also listening to you. I think, what do you think, people? We want to hear. You help us normalize what we're experiencing. And for many people, like me waking up at 4:30 in the morning with my heart beating, I've never had it before. So, yes, obviously it's anxiety, but I think for very smart people who've had a lot of education, perhaps when things happen to you that you don't recognize or they're new, it's even scarier. And for many people, they don't have a support network to tell. They don't have their mod squad. And so I'm keeping you late. Can you tell us one more thing? I have no doubt that community and support mitigates a lot of this terror and trauma. Is that right?
Yeah, and I'll just say with that and a couple of other things about the current times and how to deal with them. So starting with that, yes, there's no question that having people around you, some people to talk to, not necessarily your team of therapists, but just people to share stressors, figure out solutions, having those people, and it could be through an organization or a group or neighbors or whatever, maybe coming together to address concerns, make changes, things like that.
And it can be a great therapist. We're not demeaning then
No,
diminishing.
no, of
It
course,
can
of
be
course,
for sure. Yeah.
of course, of course, or a group therapy.
Right. A group
Uh,
support program, right.
Exactly. Or a hobby group. I mean, all of these things are count. Religious groups, they all count um, as social, as group support. So that's something to really, and especially if you feel isolated, and when you get stressed or when things are stressed in the world, you look at the news and you're already feeling isolated. It can make you
Mhm.
feel even more isolated, especially if you don't feel like you have anything to do. So yeah, don't watch as much news. Don't look at as much social media. Instead, get what you need and then get involved or get together in ways that will help you. I'll also say, too, that we talked before about the uncertainty and the lack of predictability of what's going to happen next, it seems, in the world. Um, I advise people to counter that with predictability and reliability in their own lives. So if you have even just one activity, but if you have 10 great that you do on a regular basis or every day that help you feel good, that you can count on, could be everything from your cup of coffee, and I know that's a stressor, but I think you get what I mean, to exercising, to taking a walk, which I know you do, Kathy,
Oh,
to
religiously.
meditating, to having people to talk to watching something funny, to getting or doing your best to get your 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night. Those reliable, predictable things in your life, going to bed and waking up at the same times each day if you can, those will help counter a lot of the lack of predictability that causes so much stress in the world. And then the last thing related to that is that what are your counterbalances? That's a question I ask a lot of coaching clients and groups, anyone that I work with. What are your counterbalances? What's one thing that you do or did or maybe can try every day that balances out some of the stress that you're experiencing? So let's say you have a really stressful day at work and then you come home. What is something that you do that washes away some of that stress?
Mm.
Sometimes it only takes one thing, like a walk in the park, a jog, playing with your dog, playing with your kid, watching a Seinfeld rerun, whatever it is. It's amazing how that one counterbalance can really bring you back to balance.
I love this so much. And I'm sitting here thinking my counterbalance is sometimes it's too full a week, but it was what's on Monday? Tennis at night. Tuesday is choir rehearsal. Wednesday's off. Thursday is church choir rehearsal. Sunday is singing in church. And there would be times I'm so tired and stressed that I can't even imagine getting in the car and going doing those things. But thank goodness I override that and I come back a changed person.
Mm,
One, it allows you to focus on something else and
yeah.
gives you all the benefits that that thing gave, whether it's a creative muse or you're outside of this deep need to fix things. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely incredible. Jordan, I could keep you on for hours, obviously. I feel relaxed and calm, people. I hope
Like a walk in
like
Central
a walk in the
Park.
park. So let us talk about it. June 13th. People already heard me talking about it. Jordan, let's talk about what we're putting together here. June 13th in Central Park. Jordan,
Yeah, I think I can speak for you and say,
of
I
course
think
you
you
can.
said up front, we're so excited about this retreat because it really is a way to relax and a treat because Kathy and I will be leading a tour in Central Park. Yes, I'm also a licensed tour guide in New York City, so I get to marry uh, two things that I absolutely love. Really, three things. One is Central Park. The other is helping people reduce their stress. And the third thing is working with you,
Oh,
Kathy
dear.
Caprino.
Oh,
So we had this idea to come together and have a tour of Central Park, be inspired and motivated by really what is the greatest metaphor and teacher of stress reduction, in my opinion, Central Park, this oasis in the middle of chaotic New York City. And then the added feature to bring it all home is that we will help people who take part in the retreat to reduce the stress of things that are causing them to not make progress on a goal or an objective or a change in their lives. And it is stress that often blocks us from being able to get where we want to go. It's sort of like snow on a highway.
mm.
So we'll be there to work with people to overcome those stresses so they can make more progress. What
What a
would you add to
beautiful.
that?
Oh, well, I echo all of it. Also, I because I run a lot of group courses, the community piece of it, even if you're complete strangers, where Jordan will take us to beautiful sites with relaxation and rejuvenation in mind and beautiful sites, but we are hoping to then have an hour or so with you to talk about what stresses you most and look at it from, be that mod squad for you, but also the people that come together. Even if it's a tiny group, I find that even strangers from other countries, everyone who's in these groups is meant to be in this group together, that they learn from what other people are going through and from what we're sharing that could be of help. There's so many benefits to doing this. On top of it, Central Park. I lived in New York for years. I went to the Sheep's Meadow as a young person. There are so many places there that hold so many beautiful memories. Just stepping foot in it, I think, can recalibrate a lot of what we're feeling. So we're going to have a ball. And Jordan's, I've had you as a tour guide in Miami. I've had you in New York several times. I mean, the things you point out, history, are really like no one else. So, people, if this speaks to you, if you feel like just listening to Jordan has been meditative, I hope you'll sign up. You will see it in the show notes. We'll be talking about it, but we can give the link. I want to tell them the link, Jordan.
Yeah, the link is thestresscoach.com/central dash park dash retreat,
There
all
it is.
lowercase.
There it is. We cannot wait to meet you and see you. And we can't wait to do this together. I think it's just going to be an utter ball. And I'm rather confident you will leave this experience changed. in a positive way.
June 13th,
June 13th.
2025, 1 to 4:30 p.m. New York time.
New York, New York. All right, my friends. Oh, Jordan, thank you so much for letting me ask all these impromptu questions and all your amazing advice.
Oh,
I know it'll be so helpful for so many. Thank you for taking the
thank
time.
you. Always great to talk with you and to be on your show. So really
Thank you, my
appreciate it.
dear. Thank you. All right, people. I say this a lot. If you don't have a question about what we talk about, I'll be surprised. So I know we're both a little bit crashingly busy, but wherever you see this, if you want to post a comment or a question, we'd so love to hear from you, and we'll do our best to get back to you if you have a question. So please let us hear from you, and I hope it's helpful. Send it to people who you feel could really benefit too, would you? And we can't wait to see you in Central Park if that's possible for you, June 13th. Thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful Finding Brave and a calmer, more relaxed 2 weeks. And we will see you soon. Thank you again, Jordan.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, Kathy here. Are you ready for a big positive shift in how you're working and what you're achieving today in your career? Let's make that happen for you. While you might know me best as a podcast host and a writer, a key focus in my work is helping women experience greater success and achieve their biggest goals in the quickest, most effective way possible. In my 6-session career and leadership breakthrough one-on-one coaching program, I help women get what they want most, which includes more confidence, impact, advancement, financial reward, and fulfillment. I've worked with over 20,000 women across 6 continents, and before that, I served as a therapist, and before that, I was a corporate VP, managing multi-million-dollar budgets and global initiatives. I bring all of that experience to our work together, helping you build a new chapter that aligns with who you really are and what you're ready to create. Check out kathycaprino.com/career breakthrough, and I hope you'll register now. I'd love to support you. Thanks so much for joining us today. And please don't forget to check out findingbrave.org for more programs, resources, and tips. And tune in next time for your weekly dose of Finding Brave.